It's not all we want, no, you've had your say. It's not all we want, okay, but there's enormous evidence that what we're doing is working. And we will try and improve on that, but I don't want anybody walking away saying it's really easy to hack these things. It's simply not true.
The thing to remember is that we want transparency. We need more poll watchers. Poll watchers are becoming more sophisticated. They're using different technology. And David talked about our use of the high school kids as the judges. That first election when that happened, I went around and our old judges didn't want those high school kids there. Then they realized the high school kids know how to set up the machines and answer the questions. And now they've become the most popular judges. But the object here is we believe there needs to be transparency, and that we've got to fight to make sure that people are in those polling places watching. Now, it's going to change. It's not the way when I used to go, and as I said, people put lead under their fingernails to count those ballots to disqualify a ballot with a mark. So it's each election, as we train, as candidates train their poll watchers, they're going to have to work to make sure that they're efficient. Over here, there was a question. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just going back to mail-in ballots, how do you know that it actually got there? Is there any follow-up on if you mail in your ballot?
The question is about mail-in ballot. Yeah, there's pretty amazing follow-up, and we have to have amazing follow-up. First of all, because we got to make sure that you get it, okay? Then we make sure we get it back, and we got to make sure that you don't mail in the ballot and then try and vote on election day. Okay, so there's a lot we do, and you know, with particularly as the more we can do online, the better. So everything is tracked. We know where everything is, and if for example, we don't get your ballots in time, then of course you could vote on election day, but we send out to all the polling places a list of everybody that voted early and a list of people whose absentee ballots have actually come in. So those judges will know, sorry, you've already voted, or it's okay that you go ahead. So we keep, you know, great track of that. And remember, there are quite a few ballots that come in after the deadline. And in Illinois, if they're postmarked properly, we can count them for up to 2 weeks. Because I've been amazed. I've seen people using FedEx and stuff, and it took 4 or 5 days to get there. Okay, so yeah, we have to keep real careful because starting with coming close to April 4th, people are going to keep calling. Where's my ballot? You know, I sent in the application, etc. So
you can check online.
Yes.
Right. But for any individual, you can look it up on our website. You can enter your name and birthday, and it will tell you yes, we received it or no, we haven't. So,
could you hear that? A little louder, Brian?
For any individual where it has my ballot arrived, you can go to our website, you type in your name, and you get your birthday, verifying information, and it will tell you whether the ballots arrived.
Next question. Yes, ma'am.
What's the story on what actually did happen or get hacked in the state? The real story.
The real story to get what?
Well, she wants to know about the State Board of Election being hacked and being informed by Homeland Security at the federal level that there was a problem. You know, one of the interesting things first to remember, and I don't know that we know the technical answer to what happened, but unlike some other states, our voter registration files are not maintained at the State Board of Election. They're in the Cook County office, they're in the Chicago Board of Elections office, and all the other election authorities statewide. So we're not quite sure what you could get if you hacked in. But obviously there was something that came up, and Ryan, do you know more about this? What Homeland Security told Illinois?
Something,
but make sure people say different hacking of a registration system and hacking election, very different.
right. So there is essentially a flat file of voter information on a server at the State Board of Elections. And the hackers were able to view the information of, if I remember, something fewer than 2,000 voters. They were able to view names and social security numbers, birth dates. They were not able to change anything. It was caught within several days. It was noticed within several days. The system was shut down for about 2 weeks. We first found out about it because people said, hey, we're trying to register to vote using the online system and we can't. And we went to complain. We didn't immediately get an answer as to why, but you knew from the non-answer that something unusual was up. We were assured by Homeland Security that they have not seen any evidence that hackers would be able to change things on a server, only only to view them, and that the thing to be worried about was what's called a denial of service attack on election day. In other words, not that hackers could go in and, you know, make it so that you were not registered to vote or anything like that, but they could simply try to flood our servers the way it sometimes happens with some other with corporations with other systems. Very little of what we do is dependent on a server on election day, but some things are. We were a little worried that perhaps people wouldn't be able to get results because of something like that. So.
Okay. Before I go back to second questions, are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah. Since voter suppression is such a big issue, our so-called president won because he carried Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, who are usually Democratic states, by a very small amount. And, you know, it's a Republican governor and a Republican legislature in those states. What can we do to combat that?
Well, the question of how you deal with voter suppression in each state is a battle within each state. And I'm comfortable with where the law is in Illinois and where the law will go in Illinois. I think that one of the things that I'm bothered by the president's comments are usually the winner doesn't complain. And what the complaining is doing is trying to undermine the confidence in the system. We're here to tell you that as a voter in suburban Cook County, your vote is protected and will be counted. Now, we need to look at these other states. David's kind of an international expert. He gets sent around the world by the UN and other people to observe elections in other jurisdictions. We may be in a position where we need to be helping other states figure out how to observe their own elections, okay, going forward, so we can ensure that the integrity is there. Not officially, we're not going out there as Cook County government, but training people here who go into those states. My son, who's a lawyer, has done election work in Michigan and Indiana to watch what's going on in their vote process, and you know, I think we're going to see more and more of that. But I don't think that we can generalize about these other states that there was massive vote fraud. I don't think that there was. I think these were close elections, and people had the right to do recounts and didn't do recounts in these states. Some attempted, but then chose not to.
They were shut down.
Yes.
What security measures were taken that he referred to?
Okay, Homeland Security and the State Board of Elections did a protocol to protect their servers, and as far as we know, it's worked. We have our own protocol. David's office, we spend a lot of money at the county on helping to protect our systems, and we do not use, you know, as many of you listen to NPR, it's often brought to you by Kaspersky Inc., which is a Russian company headquartered in Moscow, which really causes me some concern. We do not use Kaspersky Inc. We use others who will protect us. But, you know, I think this is something that we're going to have to live with. I mean, if you shop at Target, if you shop at some store, you know that things can be hacked. We just need to be vigilant. Now, I said we'd end at 8 o'clock, and I try to be punctual. I always wanted to run a railroad. So again, I want to thank David and his staff for being here. And I want to thank all of you for coming out, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for helping us get this crowd. I hope this has been helpful. Politics, because the mayor, the senior alderman, and the clerk in these municipalities usually are of the same party, because we don't have a lot of diversity. David, you.
There's been moves to change that. What's happened is, as chairman of the Cook County Electoral Board, I don't actually do that. I have a smart lawyer that knows election law that's been doing it for 20-some years. What we wanted to do is to put more of the offices under that, because for one, they have more experience, have less partisanship, etc., rarely overturned. okay? And most of these offices people running for in April are now under our electoral board, okay? Municipalities and townships are different. There's been attempts to try and change. I believe most municipalities do a pretty good job. But there's a few that are just outrageous. No matter who you are, you can turn in 60,000 petitions and they throw you off. And they do it intentionally, they throw you off, and the whole idea is for you not to know if you're even going to be on the ballot up to a few weeks before the election. Some people are really bad. Most of them are fine. The real, again, these are all political realities. We have support in the legislature, but remember the Illinois Municipal Association is very strong, and a few powerful mayors in the region can prevent what a lot of legislators would like to see happen. Because frankly, there's been some pretty powerful state legislators that have unfortunately been handled this way in the past. So that's the way to go, but we haven't won that one yet. Right, so the point is that, Robbie and your group may make very good decisions, but some places don't. And like I said, we create this kit to help candidates, but nothing's worse than some not young, but just an idealistic person who wants to serve on a school board, and they get batted around like it's unfortunate. So in the short run, while we're trying to win that battle legislatively, we work at the newspapers to make a lot of noise. And my staff knows, even though it's not my legal responsibility, I believe in kicking the heck out of those people and make it as public as possible when they mess around with potential candidates' lives.
Is there a bill number?
Pardon?
There's a bill number.
There's not right now because we weren't going to win it this year. We brought it up several times.
One of the things that needs to happen is, and I think Rodney hit upon it, election law is a real branch of the law. And David has a lawyer who sits on the county electoral board. The state's attorney is a member of the electoral board but never sits on it, always has a senior lawyer. We have people who can put a judgment based upon knowledge rather than putting civilians into situations on technical questions. And so I think it's something that needs to happen. And again, if the trend is to try to consolidate government branches, and I'm kind of a lucky person, I got to vote to dissolve Evanston Township, and I got to vote to put the referendum of combining the recorder's office with David's office on the ballot. So I'm 2 for 2. I'm willing to go for a third one. Other questions? Yeah, back there, yes.
I'm an amateur web manager, which is that you said that you were looking at new software and voter systems for the state. Is that correct?
Well, no. What David said there is we need to purchase new equipment. We've got to figure out how to first fund that and how much we can get. But at the same time, the manufacturers of all of this equipment are out there, and that's why David had this event last week, and we'll have another one, as he said, today. But we know we need new equipment, and we want to make sure whatever we get will last the longest possible. And so David and his team clearly are always upgrading even the stuff we have.
Right. My question is then, are you committed then to always having a paper trail? It's shocking to me that some states and counties don't have paper trail.
Well, I think we're required to have a paper trail by law here in Illinois, and I don't see us wanting to change that. So, no, I think that you'll find that on most of the election law issues, Illinois has led the nation, though there probably are a few that are not as leading as we'd like them to be, but I don't think you'll see us go backwards on that. Yes, sir, the blue hat.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, what are your thoughts about a ballot by mail statewide initiative like Oregon uses that claims to have very high?
I'm certainly in favor of it. David, you want to talk?
I would save money from expensive machines as well, like we were talking about.
Yeah, I believe that voting by mail is very good. Now, keep in mind, though, a couple things is, real life sometimes different. For example, you go back to 2004 and 2005, and there was millions of dollars available to buy new equipment after the debacle of 2000. And so, had that not happened, I believe many of the states would have gone to all-mail balloting, okay? But the fact is, all these states had a pool of money that they can invest in new equipment. That's number one. Also, back then, there are some issues with mail voting. There are mistakes. Now, those states have gotten better, because it used to be, you might have a 3 or 4% error rate. And when you do the mail, sometimes nothing you can do about it afterwards. Those states have all gotten better. So it's not likely in the near future. I would love to experiment in Illinois with it. For example, I mean, I did away with the local elections, I think back around '97. We used to have in the fall, like the fall of odd year, like this year, we also had a local election where we had about 4% turnout. So we got rid of that and put those school board elections into the elections we're having now. I'm just trying to figure out how realistic it is. But if we could get mail balloting on certain referendum issues or some of these smaller elections, it'd be a great experiment. Remember, I'm always trying to be as frank as possible. Part of the real political world is not everybody wants everybody to vote. I mean, you may be a parent and you want to see a school board referendum passed with more money. On the other hand, a lot of people don't. So sometimes decent people don't want a lot of people to vote. Because if we had some of these issues, some of these local elections run by mail balloting, I think we'd have a higher turnout. So I think we should push that, experiment with it, and see where it goes.
You know, remember that before the consolidation of these municipal and school board elections, school boards elections happened on Saturdays. And so there's a whole lot of different things that can happen. Karen, did you have a question up there? Oh, yes, sir, yeah.
David, by the way, thank you for mentioning Dick Mel. I'm here from the 33rd Ward. So we did get Dick out of office. He's no longer our committee. But I always like to hear him mentioned, so thank you for that. We mentioned 2 areas of concern, money in politics and voter suppression. But the area that I'm most concerned with, we didn't mention, and that is our love affair with technology when it's not appropriate. So there are 3 things about elections that I think are very important that we've forgotten. First of all, ballots should not leave the polling place until they're counted. 2, the count must be observable by poll watchers. And 3, we've completely forgotten this, elections are a community undertaking with opposing forces checking each other. That's the check and balance of an election. We're moving toward elections being a bureaucratic project with boards of elections on which we have to rely that they're fair and neutral overseer. I don't think elections were ever intended to be that. So my concern is touchscreen voting machines. The count isn't observable. They can be rigged. We all know that. And with increasing technology, anything can be hacked. Eventually, anything can be hacked. So I think that we need to do what Germany did in 2009. They decided that voting machines, basically the Supreme Court of Germany decided that voting machines, because the count was secret, they were inherently undemocratic. I think we should do that here and return to hand-counted paper ballots.
I'm not sure that I heard all that. First of all, I like to try and listen to everybody very carefully, but there is not a lot of hacking, okay? There is a pool of thought by some people that I respect, and they talk about how easy it is to hack. I don't believe that's true, or I wouldn't be providing the equipment that I do. I don't believe that's true. I think there's a lot of misinformation and confusion. I'll give you an example. We have things called split ballots. And so in a particular precinct, your neighbors might have the same ballot, it's the same ballot looking, and you might have the same congressman, but you might have a different state rep. Okay, that's called a split ballot. In the old days, let's say the judge made a mistake and didn't realize there were split ballots, and they gave you the same ballot, and so you didn't really get to vote for the person of your choice. Bring it to, so it's a human error. Bring it to today, and now you're putting on a touchscreen. And the difference is you're getting this card that has your entire ballot, which you're entitled to get. And because our ballots are so complicated, you have to have that. You'd never get a split precinct correct. Because sometimes we have 5 or 6 ballots in a split precinct. Okay, so the difference is the person goes in, they give all their information, the judge creates the card, but that judge made a mistake too. They put in 1357 instead of 1359, and lo and behold, you're given a ballot that is not germane to your individual district. Now, some people say, oh, it's sabotage, it's computer, it's all, it's hacking. No, it's a human error, made a mistake, just like the person did before when it was on paper. So I'm not sure about some of the things that you said. First of all, I'll finish. Everything is observable. So I'm not sure if I heard you well enough.
The count is not observable.
It's not observable when it's being done inside of a machine.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Listen to me. In other words, we have paper ballots, right? Paper ballots you put into a counter, okay? That's automatically counted, okay? But the key is that that information is available if you want to check it, okay? With the touch screens in Illinois, because we put into the law, you had to have a voter verifiable paper audit trail. And the paper trail, as I said earlier, on the touch screens that our voters love, okay, the vast majority of suburbanites vote on the touch screen and they like them. And then the paper trail is what we use in a recount. Now keep this in mind, we've been doing this for years, okay? Larry stands here and reads the electric count. Let's say, it's for Joan Blow, okay? And Larry reads electronically, it said 57. And I'm doing these little hash marks, and I'm seeing how many we're done. Every time, in the last many, many years, in dozens of elections, okay, the only errors we find are the human part. Okay, I did my little hash marks, it was only 54, and I catch that. So we do those kinds of audits all the time.